This is the new Mercedes S-Class, and it's got some very big boots to fill because the old one was just so good. It's also got to beat its traditional rivals like the Audi A8. However, it's also got to beat the Auto Express current luxury car of the year, which is actually the Range Rover. Ever since the first S-Class arrived in 1972, it has always dominated the luxury car sector. Well, until it was recently deposed by the Range Rover. So, can this new one regain its crown? To find out, Auto Express road test editor James Disdale will be comparing it to the Range Rover and Audi A8 in a number of key areas. Okay then, first things first. Now obviously with cars such as this, one of the most important things is just how luxurious they are. The Range Rover sets the benchmark for the Mercedes to beat. And starting at £71,000, this TD V6 Vogue is the pick of the range. By comparison, the long wheelbase A8 3-litre TDI SE seems a bit of a bargain, and less than 64 grand is the least expensive car here. This stretched S350 Blue Tech LSE costs £2,000 more than the Audi, but is it really worth the extra money?
Well, in terms of luxury, the Mercedes, well, they've just taken it on a step with the new S-Class. The quality of the materials is fantastic. The leather, the wood, it just feels like a real top quality item. It's just lovely to sit in. You know, you feel like you're someone important when you're in the back of an S-Class. The Audi, it's great quality materials. It's beautifully put together. It just doesn't have quite the special feel of the S-Class. Just feels a bit more like an Audi A4 and an Audi A6, you know, a top of the range version of that. The Range Rover, well, I mean, what can you say about the Range Rover? You know, it's got that British blend of wood and leather. It always feels special, and particularly the raised kind of seating position, even in the back, you know, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Despite this, the S-Class is still the most luxurious. The Range Rover comes an impressive second though, with the Audi A8 third. Limousines are often used for carrying dignitaries about. Obviously I'm not a dignitary, but it is important to find out just how comfy this car and its rivals are in the back. The S-Class is offered with a range of seating options. This one has the £4,000 executive seat package, but you can pay even more to make them recline up to 43.5 degrees. That's more than in any other car. The Audi doesn't have such versatile rear seats, but in the back, it's no less spacious than the Mercedes. It may be big on the outside, but the Range Rover has 80mm less rear legroom than the two Germans. But does this really matter?
Well, if I was a very wealthy businessman, I'd want to spend most of my time in the back of the Mercedes. Like the Audi, it's got a reclining rear seat option, but it has more scope for movement, so you can really sort of lie back and relax, and there's just lots of leg room to stretch out in. Saying that, there's not much difference in the Audi. It's also very spacious. There's just not the same amount of movement in the seat. The Range Rover, it's very good. There's a decent amount of space, but it feels more like an executive car in terms of space than a proper luxury limousine. You know, you really can't stretch your legs out in the same way.
So, in terms of rear comfort, the S-Class leads the field, followed by the A8 and then the Range Rover. Limousines may often be used for chauffeuring people about, but what if you're a chauffeur or you just want to drive the car yourself? Well, how they drive is also very important. The Range Rover may well be able to go off-road, but really, very few owners will. And on-road, its 2,160 kilogram bulk means its 258 brake horsepower 3-litre diesel does just 38 miles per gallon. It's quite swift though, as when we timed it, it did 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds. Like the Range Rover, the 1,975 kilogram S-Class has adaptable air suspension for a comfy ride, while its 254 brake horsepower 3-litre diesel did 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds, yet it can return 50 miles per gallon. Capable of 44 miles per gallon, the A8's 247 brake horsepower 3-litre diesel isn't as economical. It's slightly quicker though, as we clocked 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds. You can thank the lower 1,890 kilogram weight and Quattro all-wheel drive for that.
The Audi is kind of the dynamic driver's choice. It's got a lot more grip. The Quattro system inspires lots of confidence. It just feels more urgent when it's accelerating. It feels like, you know, you can throw it down a back road despite its vast size. It's actually quite fun to drive. The Range Rover, it's kind of It's very, very nice. It's just soft. It's not a car that wants to be pushed, but given its size and its height, it's actually remarkably good. The Mercedes has clearly been designed for comfort. Even in sport suspension setting, it sort of wafts along, soaking up the bumps. The steering's beautifully weighted and it's very precise, but it's not a car that really wants to be hustled. It just wants to move along at its own pace, which in fairness is quite quick. I mean, even that diesel engine has got lots and lots of torque and it really, really motors along.
Bearing in mind, these cars are aimed as being comfy cruisers. The Mercedes is the best to drive, followed by the Range Rover and finally the Audi, on account of its sportier edge.
Mercedes likes to think that its S-Class is at the cutting edge of technology. But how does it actually measure up compared to its rivals?
Both the Audi A8 and the Range Rover are gadget laden. You can get posh stereos, high-tech screens, surround cameras and huge sunroofs. But being the newest, the Mercedes has an advantage. It gets the latest displays, most advanced night vision system and even hot stone massage seats.
Since it made its debut in 1972, the Mercedes S-Class has kind of become a byword for cutting-edge technology, and they've done it again, basically. This car is just overflowing with gadgets. I mean, it takes a good 15 minutes after you first sit in it to work out what does what and how it does it. It's just a technical tour de force. It's remarkable. It really is amazing. I mean, you'd spend a lifetime with that car and still be finding things that it could do that you never knew about. The Audi is very good, and in isolation you'd think this car is brilliant, but it just feels a little old tech with its standard analog instruments and things like that. The Range Rover, well, you know, it tries, but it just feels a little bit off the pace here. The touchscreen sat-nav is starting to feel really creaky now. The TFT dials, they're good, but you sit behind the wheel of the S-Class and they suddenly feel massively outdated in the Range Rover.
It's clear the S-Class leads the field for technology, as well as being the most luxurious, plus the best to drive and to be driven in. But there's just one last thing we need to consider.
A car such as this are sometimes used by criminals to carry bodies about, so it's important you can fit a human in the back. Seriously though, it is important that you can actually fit the luggage from all your occupants in the back, on at least a few sets of golf clubs. So how do the cars measure up in this respect?
The S-Class's boot capacity is a respectable 510 litres. Interestingly though, the A8 is exactly the same size. However, the Range Rover has a 909 litre capacity, and with the seats folded, it can swallow 2,030 litres.
In the unlikely event you're going to have these as a family car, then the Range Rover wins hands down. It's got a huge boot. It's the only one that you can fold the rear seats flat in. You know, it copes like a proper family car. The Mercedes and the Audi, there's a fixed rear bench. The boots aren't exactly small, but they're encumbered by little cutouts for refrigerated centre armrest things and stuff like that. So it's just, they're not massively practical. They're designed to waft up and down motorways flat out with businessmen in the back.
This means the Range Rover is the most practical here, and overall it's a better luxury car than the Audi A8. Thing is though, the Mercedes S-Class is even better.
I think in this market, for a limousine, you want luxury and you want comfort and you want refinement, and the Mercedes, well, it doesn't edge it, it beats them both quite comfortably. It's very good at what it does.